Hi.
Hi there. All right. Okay, it's 11 o'clock, so we'll start with it. What I wanted to do today really was just to kind of go through the various reliefs that I think's appropriate for you guys out there in the first instance, and then to do a bit of a Q&A. Anything I can't deal with today, or if there's a lot of Q&A on the same sort of things, then I've booked another of these for the next 2 weeks at the same time. So we'll try and update you if there's been any changes in the meantime, and I'll also just go through any of the questions that you've got in the meantime. One thing I was going to say was I'm going to record this so that we've got it available for other people who couldn't make the webinar today, so that they've got this available for them. I'll post it up on YouTube at some point. So if anyone's got any objections to being on the recorder or any content, then obviously please just don't take part in the webinar.
I might just go non-video.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no worries. Okay, so I hope everyone's well. It's very challenging times for everybody at the moment. Obviously, the industries that I chose to work with have been more challenged than most in the current climate. So we will all get through this in the end. We just need to stick together as a community, share information. And again, I keep saying to clients I've spoken to in the last couple of weeks, where there's challenges, there is opportunity. If you can look for it and look at ways to deliver what you're doing, in a different way maybe, or those people that, are reliant upon going out there. Obviously, it's a time for consolidation and a time for basically creating as much content as possible. So when the lockdown's out, we've got content to go back out into the market really. So today, obviously, the government announced a raft of measures quite quickly after the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown. Now, there's been a lot of headlines out there, but there's not been a great amount of detail in certain things, and the detail's kind of been coming over, over a period of time. That's if you haven't followed Zen on social media, please follow us, because I've been trying to post everything on social media that's come across my desk that's been useful. So I'm probably posting 3-4 times a day at the moment, anything I think is relevant for people. And likewise, if there's anything that you guys feel would be useful to the community as a whole, if you can pass it back to me, and then I'll make sure I share that as well. Again, just so we're getting any information or experiences to get us through this really. So the two sort of main areas that I've been kind of asked over the last couple of weeks in terms of the reliefs that are available for the businesses that we deal with is effectively the relief for the self-employed, those guys that are out there as sole traders or partnerships. So that doesn't include owner managers of your own limited company. There's been a bit of confusion there with people asking me, am I self-employed? And actually, if you're a owner, manager, director, shareholder of your own limited company, then that's not classed under the self-employed reliefs that are available for COVID-19. So a self-employed, like I said, will be a sole trader, completing a tax return, not operating as a limited company structure, or also a partnership. Now, the main reliefs available, the blanket relief available for that is, the first thing is it's looking at you had to be trading in the 18-19 tax year. If you started trading in 19-20 tax year, you're not entitled to any reliefs under that, unfortunately. If you were trading in the 18-19 tax year, then they're looking at the 3 previous years average in arriving at your profit. And again, a lot of queries on what do they mean by profit. So that will be your net profits, that will be your turnover minus your expenses before tax and before any personal allowances are deducted. So that would be your net profit. So the way it's working out at the moment, you look back over the last 3 years, and the criteria is that your average profit over the last 3 years has to be £50,000 or under to be eligible for it. If your average profit's over 50,000, then unfortunately you're not entitled to the self-employed relief. So the other criteria is that we have a number of clients who have portfolio careers, a bit of PAYE, a bit of self-employment, that sort of thing. To qualify, you have to be, you're either in the 18-19 tax year, your self-employment needs to be in excess of 50% of your earnings, or the average of the last 3 years, your earnings have to be over 50% from self-employment to be able to apply for the relief. And the relief that's available is effectively 80% of your average profit over those 3 years, worked out as a monthly amount, and that will be payable for 3 months at the moment. So they're going to pay March, April and May, and then we don't know, we'll see what happens after that. They're saying that the revenue should be in touch with you automatically, and you're requesting information from you. Now, HMRC should have all the details of this on their system, so I don't know when they start doing it, whether they will have picked up all your information and will have automatically worked out the average, and whether you had 50% employment versus self-employment, etc., or whether it's going to be some kind of form that comes out. I'm not sure at the moment. Again, I haven't had any detail on it. I know a few self-employed people have said they've already been approached by HMRC by email about this, but I've not heard any more detail on whether they've requested anything or whether it's just a holding email. Yeah. And I understand that the self-employed relief will be payable, possibly, and towards the end of June, maybe. So again, people are saying, well, how do I cover the shortfall in the meantime? And the revenue's answer, or the government's answer to that, is this business interruption loan. So that's kind of the self-employment relief in a nutshell for the self-employed. So again, if you're self-employed, under 50,000 average net profit, and your salary, your self-employment is greater than 50%, then you'd be entitled to that for 3 months. Okay, so the other big question we've had is about the people who have small companies, who are sole directors, maybe husband and wife directors, shareholders, what relief's available for them. And really, the only grant relief available for them at the moment, and it's only literally been clarified over the last week, really, is the problem with these clients is they earn money into the company, and the money is extracted in the most efficient way by generally doing a low salary. So for last year, that would have been £719 a month, and then the rest comes out as dividends. Now, unfortunately, the revenue have said that only the salary element will be entitled to the coronavirus, job support scheme, and that is the government will support 80% of the average salary, or the February salary, rather, looking at. To qualify for this, you had to be a PAYE scheme had to be in place as of the 28th of February 2020. And if the February salary was exceptional, that maybe it was a low month, if you're varying the salary, then they're prepared to look back, I understand, at an average of the 1920 salary, and you'll be entitled to 80%, the lower of 80% of your monthly salary as is, or £2,500 per month, again for 3 months, for March, April and May. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of outcry from our clients saying, well, why are we only getting that? Obviously, we extract the most of our money from dividends. That's the way the revenue's drawn the line at the moment. Myself and a number of other accountant colleagues of mine, we've made representations to the Institute of Chartered Accountants this week about this, and we're hoping that the Institute is going to lobby HMRC to kind of get some kind of better deal for those clients that have got limited companies. Generally, our advice for people going incorporated, as clients of mine will know, is I generally say if your net profits on average 50 grand or over, per year, I recommend, trading as a limited company is the most tax efficient way. Those guys that are 50 grand and over still trading as sole traders would get no relief under the, COVID-19 reliefs, but those with a limited company, at least, even if you're on the 719 salary, you're probably going to get you know, 500 odd pounds a month for 3 months, which is more than what the self-employed over 50 grand profit would be getting. The other questions that I've had have been to do with furloughing, which runs with a limited company for clients that have got other employees on the payroll. I've had a lot of questions about, you know, furloughing employees during this time. And again, the instructions from the revenue have kind of been released sort of drip fed really. But again, employees can be furloughed. The one thing I would go back to the other point on directors furloughing yourself, that is laying yourself off effectively for a period. It needs to be for a minimum of 3 weeks and it's a maximum of 3 months. But during that period, from a director's point of view, you're not supposed to be working to be entitled to the furlough money. You are allowed to do statutory director duties. So for example, you know, bookkeeping, admin, things like that, but you're not really supposed to be out there touting for business or doing work or generating income and invoicing really for any work that's been done in that period, or you jeopardize the furlough claim. For those that are employing other people, again, those individuals effectively mustn't be in work. They are allowed to do other jobs and allowed to be self-employed and do volunteering and still be entitled, the employer still be entitled to the furlough payment. And again, the furlough payment for the other employers is just the same as the directors. It's the lower of 80% of the salary for February, or £2,500, whichever's the lower. And again, minimum 3 weeks, maximum 3 months at the moment. And whether the other overriding principle here is obviously with this, the general employment laws and everything else and notice periods and all that lot still applies. The furloughing doesn't exempt that, so you still need to make sure you're compliant with any contracts you've got in place for staff. But you know, it gives you an opportunity, and whether you pay the employee the full amount and you claim back the 80%, or whether you reduce the employee's pay is again, you know, down to legalities and your contract and your arrangements with your employees really. So you need to kind of enter into discussions with the employees about what you're going to do, that you're furloughing them. You also need to notify whoever's running the payroll for you, you know, what employees you're furloughing and for what periods. And I'd make sure that you do, you know, a proper file note to go in your staff files so that you're justifying the decision to furlough and you're confirming they're not to do any work for you and they're to go home, those sort of things. And if you're a sole director company, then again, you should really be doing a minute of a meeting with yourself effectively for the company, just stating that you're furloughing yourself for a certain period, and again that you're not to do sales generation. So just keeping this paperwork trail, because when the dust settles, you know, when we're all out of lockdown and back to normality, hopefully, HMRC will be, you know, auditing these COVID-19 claims and furloughing, and they may be asking for supporting paperwork. So how do you furlough, the process of it? Again, apparently HMRC are going to set up a portal where the furloughing relief claims are made. Now, for those of us that we run payroll for our clients, I don't know at the moment whether we'll be doing it or you'll be doing it, or a combination of both. I'm not sure. It depends on how the portal looks. I know there's been pressure to HMRC to make sure that agents get automatic access to the portal so we can assist with the furlough claims. So, sorry, hang on a sec. So I should have done that before. Yeah, so we're not sure on the process of it, but apparently the portal for doing this is supposed to be up on the HMRC website or access around about the 21st of April. I've seen the figure bandied about, but again, I can't be, you know, 100% sure. You know, again, it's very much a, you know, kind of open, you know, open situation really. So those are the main sort of reliefs that are appropriate. The other reliefs that are out there that, again, people might want to consider is the July 2020 second payment on account instalment for personal tax. You can let that run until the end of January 2021. So that can tide you over in the meantime before you get your self-employed relief or furlough relief. You can use that. What I'm suggesting to clients is if you keep back your July instalment, put it into a separate bank account so you know it's not your money, because these other reliefs aren't grants. The furlough money and the self-employed figures are grants, so you don't have to pay those back. They will be taxable income for the self-employed, so that would be declared on your tax return, but again, you don't have to pay it back. Whereas a lot of the other reliefs are effectively on the never never, so the 31st of July is a deferment of your second payment on account. But obviously, if you put that money in a separate bank account, we don't know how long the lockdown is going to take place, and we don't know what the economic position is going to be after it. So it's good to hold on to cash in the meantime now, just so we've kind of you've got cash available. But obviously try not to touch the money, because as soon as you start eating into that money, it's got to be paid back at a later date. The other relief available is anybody that got a VAT registered and have got VAT bills coming up in the next few months. Again, the VAT bill can be deferred. I don't think they've said until when, but at least for the next 3 or 4 months. So again, put the money in a separate account, ring fence it, and don't touch it unless you absolutely have to access that money. Then hopefully when the self-employed, if you do have to touch the money, when the self-employed reliefs come back in and or the furlough money comes back in from the government, hopefully you can repay the money that you've taken from your tax or VAT. Obviously you still need to do your VAT returns and the numbers still need to go in, but it's just the payment of the VAT that can be deferred. There is also a business interruption loan that the HMRC or the government have agreed with the various banks. The banks have been a bit sharp on it, and I've heard reports that some of the banks have still been trying to charge people extortionate rates of interest and take security on their own homes. The whole point of the business interruption loan that the government put in place is that the government are guaranteeing the banks 80% of the loan, so they're providing the security. So the bank shouldn't really be asking for additional security because the government have already provided the 80%. And as I understand it, the loan is interest free, or the government will repay the loan interest for a period of 12 months to allow businesses to kind of get through the economic crisis in the meantime. Other things that are available is obviously a lot of the mortgage lenders are providing mortgage holidays for people. Again, they'll either adjust your mortgage payments going forward or you'll have to play catch up. But again, it's a way to help out. I posted on social media a list of institutions and what terms they were providing on mortgage holidays. One of a broker friend of mine passed it on to me, so that's on social media if you look for that. So it shows you what terms, what period of holiday they'll give, and what the terms are like on it. So there's a few items there. Let me just have a look at my list of other things. Deferring VAT. Those businesses that are in rental property paying rates, there are rates holidays available. The other thing that's worth knowing as well, if any businesses have any current tax liabilities coming up, so for example corporation tax in the next few months, then the usual HMRC time to pay lines are open and available. So again, one would hope that the HMRC will be a bit more lenient in agreeing time to pay arrangements for any corporation tax or any of the loans that are out there at the moment. Those are the main sort of things I wanted to cover. So so I wanted to do 20 minutes, which we pretty much covered just on talking about broadly on the reliefs that are available. Again, I've posted all the links up to all the HMRC web pages on social media. So again, you can see all that on there, and any other information. So I guess what we'll do now is go on to, I'll try and deal with as many questions as we can for say 10 minutes, and then if you can put any other questions, if we don't get round to it, if you can post your questions onto chat, and if there's a load of recurring questions, then we'll try and cover it next Thursday. So if anyone's got any questions in the meantime, or any experiences they want to share that they've had on this, or any tips or anything I've missed, or any other little nuggets of information you've come across.
Craig?
Yes.
Hello, David here.
Hi, David.
Hiya, very good. Just to go back for the sole trader, sole director of a limited company situation. You mentioned that the dividends would not be applicable, but you mentioned 719 per month.
Yeah,
or up to 2,500. I wasn't clear on.
Yeah, that's on your salary. So the salary that you're paying yourself from the company, you can claim the 80%, or the lower of 80%, or £2,500 on that. But the dividends are not included, and the HMRC's response when queried on this is, oh, it's too complicated because people may get dividends from other sources other than their own company. So it doesn't seem that complicated to me, but that's the line they've given. And again, you know, there is lobbying in place, and people are talking to HMRC about that. So yeah, so David, in answer to that question, the 719 figure I picked up is where we have a lot of you know, sole director limited companies. The sort of standard, most tax efficient salary to put them on is 719, because effectively it's above the lower earnings limit for national insurance, but doesn't attract any national insurance for the company or the individual. Mm-hmm. So that's why we picked that level generally. So there's a lot of people on this standard level of salary, which would be the 719. So obviously, if you're on a higher salary than 719, you'll get the lower of 80% of the salary, or 2,500. The other thing is HMRC will also cover the employer's national insurance, and also if you're on auto enrolment, they'll cover, I think, 3% extra for the employer's contribution as well. So there's some other bits they'll cover on top of just the salary.
And do we know what the process to apply will be? Again,
a portal's being set up probably around about the 21st of April, and then applications it'll just be a case of logging into the portal and making applications through that, really. So that, you know, I know as much as you at the moment. And again, like I said, those clients that we operate the payroll for, if it's easy for us to do the data, then we'll look to do the applications. We just need to look at what it involves first and make a decision. So.
Hi, Craig. Carl here.
Yeah, hey, Carl.
Thanks.
Hi there. I'm just wondering, with landlords and mortgage holidays, do they apply to their mortgage company?
Yes. You need to. It's a case-by-case basis. So yeah, you do need to apply to the individual mortgage companies directly and see what they've got in place. A number of mortgage companies have already kind of emailed clients and notified them what their stance is and what they're doing, really. But I think it's on a case-by-case basis, really.
Okay, cheers for that.
Craig, I've got a question, if that's okay. It's John.
Yeah, go for it.
It's actually on behalf of my mum, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem.
So all her self-employment income has stopped, but she's also got the state pension.
Yeah.
And the state pension is just above her employment income, so technically it's more than 50% of her income.
Yeah.
However, it's still a very low amount, but does that mean that she doesn't qualify for any of the self-employed relief?
That's a good question, actually. I mean, I know pension income is taxable and goes on your tax return and is regarded as earned income, but I don't know the answer to that. I would imagine that it would be classed as employment income, but I can't say 100%. If you leave that with me, John, I'll make a note of that, and then I'll do what I can, and I'll come back to you on that.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
That's all right.
Oh, also, one question about furloughing. So I'm continuing to earn a bit, so it doesn't apply to me. But when you say you can't do anything that generates sales, where are HMRC likely to draw the line? Because obviously you can do things to advertise your business, or you can do things to sort of further projects. But what would they count as working?
I think, yeah, again, an interesting question, really. I think really if you're doing anything actively to generate income, so in other words, if you're doing work to generate income in the immediate period, then I think you're not laid off or you're not furloughed. If you receive income in the period that you generated before, I think that's fine. If you've got royalty income coming in, because obviously it's going to be for those composers, there'll be PRS coming in sort of March, April time, then that should be okay. But I think if you're creating content and things like that, and that's different. But if you're actually out there touting and signing deals and actually physically trading, then I think that's a different situation. Again, it'll be the revenue will audit a number of people, and it's whether, again, they haven't really defined with company directors. They've sort of defined it as being your statutory duties as a company director you're allowed to do, but no more. But with the self-employed or others, again, it's going to be, from two things really. One, from a moral angle, that if you're going to claim the release, that you genuinely, weren't continuing to trade, and two, just demonstrating if you're audited that, you're not, you can be ticking over doing the admin and stuff, but you're not actually going out there and gaining work, immediately. So with the marketing side of it, in terms of doing your marketing internally to do a release, I think that's one thing. But if you're seen to be, out there, then I think that may be an issue, because the whole point of it is to kind of tide you over while you're not trading, really.
Thanks, man. That's great.
All right.
Could I ask a question, Craig? It's Eddie
Yeah,
Martin.
go for it.
A couple of things, really. One, has anybody got an experience of getting a council tax holiday at the moment? Especially for those of us that work at home. And the other question was, is there any assistance for sort of retraining, to sort of re-gear your business to, the point you were making at the start, that, thinking of new opportunity as well. Obviously, a lot of musicians are thinking about what you can do online at the moment, and this is a good opportunity for me to sort of gen up on Logic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But it'd be good to get on a course, and if there's any support available for training costs.
In terms of council tax, I've not heard of any release on that. The only release I've heard is with sort of business rates, really. Various levels of that, so I'm not sure there's anything on council tax specifically. Again, if you're in difficulty with any payments, whether it be electric bills or anything like that, I think it's always worthwhile just getting in touch with the people you're paying directly, and just try and get some kind of holiday on a bespoke. There's no blanket relief as far as I'm aware on council tax. I mean, a lot of us, like myself, I work from home a lot of the time. But I don't think there's a statutory relief for it. I think, again, if you're on hard times, you need to get in touch with the council directly and say, look, can I have some time to pay on this? The other thing, which I haven't mentioned so far, is also those, people, even with limited companies, is the whole universal credit system as well. And they've increased limits on housing you can claim as well. So don't discount looking at the universal credit scheme. Again, I posted on social media a couple of days ago, Martin Lewis, money saving expert guy, did on his website, there's a benefits checker little app, so you can go into that and you can type in your situation, it'll tell you. I know universal credits and self-employed credits and stuff, people poo-poo it and say it's not a lot of money. But, it's better than nothing in these times, and it's worth looking at and making sure you're getting what you're entitled to, really. And then your point on the courses and things, again, there's no specific government blanket release that I've seen. The only thing I would say to you is if you look out there at some of the stuff you want to do, I know that loads of people, like, for example, you know, the Adobe suite of editing software, they're doing massive discounts at the moment for people to buy this software because they know there's people at home that are going to spend time to learn the software. So I'd have a look at the bits you want to learn. And there's a number of people, I know there's, you know, guitar tuition websites that are doing free for 3 months and things. And there's loads of people offering for 3 months a free service just because they know there's loads of people at home, really. And that, you know, obviously they want you to get into what they're doing and then subscribe when you come out at 3 months and continue to use them. So there are some good, you know, good things out there, but it's worth looking for, you know, looking for it, really.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Craig, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Who's going first? Can you hear me, Craig?
You go, Dale. I'll go after you.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick one about husband and wife directors. Is it possible for one of the directors to furlough themselves and not the other, because the 3 TV shows I'm making at the moment have all been put on hold, whereas Dale is trying at the moment to keep her natural history show going? Is that possible?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And within, if you employ a number of people, it is possible to only furlough certain sections of your firm. The firm doesn't need to be in total lockdown and shut your doors. It can be, if you're project driven like yourself, then yeah, that's absolutely fine, really. You can just furlough.
Are you allowed to come up with new ideas in the meantime, just not go out there and try and pitch them?
I think the reality of it, really, Dale, is when when the revenue look at it, it's a case of, you know, what you do in your own head, you know, no one's gonna, or what notes you make and what you're doing is another matter. It's just if you're shown to be, you know, sending treatments out or putting stuff on websites and things, then obviously, you know, that could be questioned. But obviously if you're doing your own internal consolidation and working on marketing and stuff, that's a different matter to actually, you know, going out there and you can see it all out there to show that you've been, you know, you've been out there working.
Thank you. That's very clear. Thank you.
Hi, Craig.
Yeah,
Hi, I have a question about the universal credit.
Yeah.
If, as a self-employed freelancer, I were to go for universal credit, will in the future that affect my self-employed freelance status?
As far as I'm no expert on the benefit side of this all. I'm more on sort of the tax side and things. But as far as I'm aware, what I've seen out there is, as I understand it, there shouldn't be any effect on on your self-employment. So okay. it should be fine. And in fact, I think they've even opened up the universal credit, you know, covering people who've got, you know, sole limited companies and things like that, really.
Okay, thanks.
So okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, we're at the end of the session. Like I said, I'm going to host this for the next 2 weeks, same sort of time, same format. And again, I'll just cover anything that's come up in the next week that I think's noteworthy. I'll bring it up at the next meeting. And likewise, if you have any queries in the meantime, you know, message me and I'll bring it up on on Thursday. Yeah, and again, you're welcome to invite anybody to this, not just, you know, clients or contacts. You know, share it to anybody that wants to, you know, come on if they want to have any questions on anything. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Craig.
All right, nice one, everyone. Well, yeah, no worries. Stay well, everyone.
Thanks, man.
Cheers. Thank you, Craig. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Bye.